Hello, my name is Sean Baker and I'm the director of the Florida Project, and I'll be answering some of your questions.
Okay, I warned you, one drip and you're out.
Oh, come on!
Out now.
It's gonna melt outside.
It's melting inside too.
But Bobby,
Out.
Thank you very much.
you're not welcome!
So my inspiration behind this film, my co-screenwriter Chris Bergosh brought this world to my attention. Families with children living in budget motels right outside of the tourist capital of the world, Orlando, Florida, and a place that we consider the happiest place on earth for children. So when this first came to my attention, I thought this was a topic that I think should have some light shed upon it, and I was very interested in learning more about this world and eventually figuring out a fictionalized story that could take place in this world. So that was the first part of it. The second had to do with the fact that I've always been very inspired and influenced by The Little Rascals, the Our Gang series of the 20s and 30s. And if you think about what those were, they were comic shorts set against the Great Depression. Most of the characters in The Little Rascals were actually living in poverty, but the focus was the joy of childhood, the humor that came from watching kids interact and hearing the fun things that they say, the funny things they say. So Chris and I thought that this could be our opportunity to make a present-day Little Rascals. And to add to the source of inspirations, we went back, we watched many films, many of the classic films about children made by the masters. You know, you have Kes by Ken Loach, 400 Blows by Truffaut, and then a bunch of the others that we just wanted to watch again to see exactly what's considered just the best of child performances throughout the history of cinema. So we looked at Punette, Small Change, even A Christmas Story. Just recently, Bruno Dumont's Petit Cancan, that had a very much of an influence on this film. So just going back over the history of cinema and just looking at the best of when it came to child performances, that really inspired us as well. Willem Dafoe. Well, when I heard that he might be actually interested in taking the role of Bobby, I was very honored that he was even considering the film. I've been a fan of his forever, and I just knew that he was transformative. And I look back to some of his earlier roles, his for the lack of a word, maybe gentler characters, kinder, gentler characters he's played, from Platoon to Light Sleeper, and I knew that he could he could play the straight man, even though perhaps he hasn't played that sort of role in quite a while. And when I met with him, I sat down with him and we discussed the film, we discussed the role. I knew that he wanted to put in the work, which is really what made me, I already wanted Willem in the film, but that was what really gave me, I guess it really got me to a place where I knew I was working with somebody who wanted to be a team player. He wanted to understand the world a little bit more. He actually came to Orlando and Kissimmee about a week early before we needed him, so he could absorb the environment. He could meet managers that actually from some of the budget motels that actually helped inspire the character of Bobby. And he wanted to blend in. That was like what he said first. He knew I was surrounding him with a lot of first-timers, and his fear as well as mine was that he wouldn't blend in. But he wanted to make that effort, which was wonderful. And obviously he does. He blends in wonderfully. And also I just have to say, working with him, he's the kindest, gentlest dude, very patient. I was surrounding him with 6-year-olds. I mean, he had to be patient. But he was also so nice in terms of giving words of encouragement to Bria and Mela. And it was really just wonderful to work with the guy. Absolutely wonderful. I went into this, I would say, I was a little naive about how to work with children. I've never worked with kids of that age before. I worked with toddlers and I worked with like preteens, but never kids between 6 and 8 years old. And I needed an acting coach. And so Samantha Kwan came on board to be there with the kids, to really get them to a place where they understood character, understood the scenes. We really turned the summer into, I would say, a summer camp for these kids. I mean, essentially, I was stealing their summer by making this film. So I wanted them to look back at this time and really feel that they got just a really wonderful experience. You know, we had workshops, we allowed the kids to experiment, and all 4 kids, and I'm talking about Brooklyn, Valeria, Christopher, and Aiden. They're highly skilled and very, very intelligent, and they're little extroverts. So it was never like we had to pull anything out of them. They were already giving us everything. Now, of course, they had to learn their lines. That was something that I thought I was going in there saying, maybe with kids trying to get really authentic child performances, I only want them to learn the lines just like halfway, so that they would put it into their own words. But no, I learned the hard way that you cannot do that. With kids of that age, they need a foundation. And Samantha Kwan made sure that they learned all their lines, they understood blocking, and blocking is very different with children. You just can't tell a child, hey, walk in the door, walk across the room, pivot, deliver your line. No, you got to actually go over there and hand hold them through it. You have to go across and say, enter the door, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pivot. You actually have to like have the number of steps in there. You give them everything. And then when they get to, they get on set and the cameras start rolling, then I can ask them to loosen it up a bit. But they already understand what they have to do from beginning to end. They understand, they are already in a place where they're confident, and they're not confused. You never want them confused. And then in the moment, if they're so inclined, they can loosen it up. And I was lucky enough to have all 4 children with that little. They have that gift of improv. They have that gift of even comedic improv, which is a genius that you're born with. Oh, there's one more thing. They usually lose their focus or energy by around the 3rd take. So you have to make sure you're ready for the 1st and 2nd take. By the 3rd, they're off in another direction. Now, that might be okay sometimes. It might give you alternate takes and stuff like that. But you always have to make sure that the crew and everything is ready to go on that 1st and 2nd take. There are no warm-up takes. So that's really about it. And again, working with Brooklyn is just, I have to say, Brooklyn is on a whole other level. And I just have to keep emphasizing the fact that she's on the level of Jodie Foster, Mickey Rooney, in which it seems like she was born to do this. She loves to do this, and I look forward to seeing her very bright future ahead of her. Okay, yes, regarding the dialogue. So I always encourage improvisation on set, no matter who I'm talking to, whether it's a seasoned actor or a first-timer or even a non-professional that we pull off the street. However, with the children, they had to come learning. They had to know their lines. They had to memorize their lines. And then in the moment, we could ask them to free it up a bit. So some of the scenes and the takes that we ended up using in the film are sort of hybrids in a way. And I'll give an example. There's a scene that's actually in the trailer where there's a back and forth between little Mooney and Scooty and Bobby, the character of Bobby, played by Willem Dafoe. And they're taunting him as they're licking their ice cream cone, and he's watching them for, just ready for that drip to hit the ground, and so he can kick them out of the front lobby. And we pretty much shot that exactly how we had scripted it, word for word. But while we were shooting it, I said to Brooklyn, if you ever feel like you want to add something, put something into your own words or add in a joke, feel free. So what happened was that we basically ran the scene the way we had scripted it, and at the end, Willem was the one who threw in his own line of improv. He said, "Thank you very much." And that prompted Brooklyn to say, "You're not welcome." And it was like a wonderful moment of improv that actually made it into the trailer. And it just shows that, like, you know, giving somebody like Brooklyn, Brooklyn understood, you know, when to give and when not to. And it just shows how advanced she is in terms of understanding, you know, when improv works and when it doesn't. It's pretty incredible. If you've seen the film, mother and daughter have to go out and sell perfume outside of a higher end hotel. They're selling perfume to tourists in order to make their nightly rate at the Magic Castle in which they're staying. And if you read our script, that's one part that we're basically flat out, even in our script, we're stating that this is going to be a moment of improv. So we say our actresses will interact with pedestrians and try to sell them perfume, and we will shoot this in a candid camera type style. And that's exactly what we did. I gave them a few sample lines, but for the most part, Bria and Brooklyn had to go and approach real pedestrians and try to sell perfume. And it really comes down to, you know, they have to be in the moment, and they have to be, their dialogue has to come from their interaction with these strangers. So they had a lot of improv to do in that moment, in those scenes, and I think they did a wonderful job. Advice for aspiring filmmakers. Well, we're living in a time where you don't have to wait, and that's my advice. Don't wait. You know, the studios aren't going to come and dump $1 million on your lap. It's just simply not going to happen. You have to prove to the industry that you're worthy. And now the tools are out there for you to make a film. You can make a film on your phone. You know, I shot Tangerine on an iPhone, and it went to Sundance. But it really stems even further back. I actually made a film. I co-directed a film called Takeout, and that was shot on mini DV, standard definition mini DV. And at that time, Dogma 95, the Dogma 95 movement had kicked in, and you know, the Dogma 95 movement is a Danish film movement created by Lars von Trier and Thomas Vinterberg, and those films really inspired me. They told me that, look, you can pick up your mini DV camera and you can make a feature and put it out there, and film goers and critics will take it seriously, you know, and that's exactly what we did. And Takeout is a film that I co-directed with Shi Ching-zo, and it started to do the festival circuit. It got nominated for a Spirit Award. It helped me move my career along until the point where I got to, you know, to Starlit, and finally I had financiers pay. I didn't have to spend my own money on my films anymore. I had other people spending their money on my films, and that's where you want to get to. But the only way to get to that place is to go out and prove yourself. And the tools are there, the platforms are there. You can put your stuff up on Vimeo, you can put your stuff up on YouTube. You can get it out there, and that's what I suggest you do right away, now.